If you've ever wondered how professional photographers edit a plain old boring photo into a work of art, then you clicked on the right video. Today, I'm going to talk about 3 editing hacks or tricks that I like to do with my photos that you probably aren't doing with your photos. I can guarantee you that the last tip of this video you definitely haven't tried, so make sure you stick around until the end. First one is masking. In my opinion, masking is the most underrated tool that photographers and people don't actually fully utilize. Most people use masks like this. Let's just slap on a preset. Looks good. It's about 80-90% of the way, and most people will throw on a radial preset, bring up the exposure on their subject. Maybe they'll add another mask for the background and drop the exposure. You can do this and it will make your subject pop from the background, but I like to use masks a little differently. There are 2 things that I think about every single time when it comes to masking. First is, how can I enhance the things that are already in the photo to tell a better story to the viewer, or make the viewer see it in the same way that I saw it. So an example of this is this photo that I took of Rich on the top of the Adirondacks Mountains. I'll throw on a preset from my ethereal preset pack, which will get it about 80-90% of the way there. We'll expose it properly like this. And there you go. In just a couple clicks, we have the photo about 80% of the way there, but we're not done yet. Now, this was a very cold day. We started our hike at about 3 in the morning, and this photo was taken at about 8. There was a lot of fog on all the mountain tops, but the problem with this photo is that it doesn't really show that there is a lot of fog there. So again, I want to use masks so I can show the viewer how I saw it at that moment. An easy way of doing that is grabbing a linear gradient mask, dragging it down from the top. Now, I don't want it to affect Rich in this photo, so I'm going to subtract our subject out of there, and it'll make a perfect cutout of Rich, and then I can do any adjustments I want without affecting him. And the first thing I'm going to do is just drag up the exposure, and then I'm going to go down to clarity. I'm going to drop this. You can see it kind of makes it a little bit more hazy, a little less sharp, and then just bring the dehaze down, and it's starting to look a lot more like there was fog there. This, at the same time, I don't know if you're able to tell, but it is creating separation between our subject and the background, and it is drawing the viewer's attention to the middle of the frame, which in this case, Rich. This is actually the second thing that I look out for when I am using masks. I don't just want my subject to pop. Instead, I want to put effort into the whole image, but at the same time, still get my viewer's attention drawn to where I want it. So we can just go in, add another linear gradient mask, drag it up from the bottom, because usually the bottom of the frame is darker. But I also don't want this to affect Rich. I'm actually going to subtract a radial gradient, and I'm just going to kind of do a rough radial gradient around him. I think I'm going to pull up this linear gradient a little bit higher, and then I'm just going to drop the exposure a tad. You don't want to do too much, because then it'll start looking fake. And now, just with 2 masks, you can see that we used to have a photo that looked like this. Rich kind of blended in with the background. Now we have a photo that looks like this, where he pops a lot more, but I'm going to continue working on this. This shot, there was light coming in from the left side of the frame, so I'm going to grab like a linear gradient, draw it kind of like this, and just up the exposure a tad. Maybe again some dehaze, just a tiny little bit. Then you can add a radial mask behind Rich, subtract him. So now this is only affecting behind him, and sometimes it works for some photos. You can increase the exposure a little bit, just like that. Maybe make the bottom of the frame a tiny little bit darker. Then, just to finish off the photo, we'll come in here and we will use the remove tool, increase the feather, remove this little branch that's kind of like an eyesore. And there we go. That's our final photo. Now, if we look at the before and after, you can see a huge difference. Rich pops a lot more, and the background looks a lot more interesting, almost like it did when I was looking at it in person. So don't be afraid to use masks to bring out certain parts of your images, to add contrast, to separate your subject from the background, and just to get a better edit out of your photos. Next is overlays and graphics. Very little do I see a photographer using overlays in their photos, especially when they're so accessible like they are today. A popular one that I like to use in my photos is just a basic film grain, but let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. For this, I like to use Motion Ray because they just have a huge library of assets and effects. So if we go over to the graphics tab, you can see that they have a ton of different assets and effects and graphics that you can use in your photos. So imagine you're doing this high fashion editorial type photo shoot, and this is the look that you're going for. Once we have that photo, we can just drag it right into Photoshop, drag it to the proper layer, which is right below the textures layer. And there we go. We have this super cool effect on our photo. I have literally seen photographers trying to rig up photo shoots like this. It either never turns out the same or they spend hours trying to make it work. Now, Motion Ray has a lot more than just graphics. Whether you're a photographer, content creator, or filmmaker, they have a huge library of copyright-free assets, from music to sound effects to stock footage, and a lot more. But what's super exciting is that they just announced their brand new AI voiceover feature. They have a wide range of voices to choose from that actually sound realistic.
Here, in the heart of the ancient forest,
you can change the language, the speed, and even the emotion for your voiceover so that you can generate the perfect voiceover for just about any piece of content you want.
We finally have a way for those creators and those filmmakers on a budget to generate high-quality voiceovers instantly within their turnaround time, but also for very low budget.
Now, the best part is that if you already are a Motion Array user, then you're gonna have this new AI voiceover feature included in your plan, so you can start using it today. If you don't use Motion Array already, don't worry, I'm still gonna hook you up. If you use the link in my description, you can get $50 off a Motion Array yearly plan, so you can take advantage of their new voiceover feature. They also have a voiceover only plan, so if you don't care to take advantage of all the bells and whistles that Motion Array has to offer, like stock free footage, music, sound effects, templates, assets, graphics, and a whole lot more, you can just get access to the voiceover if you wanted to. I highly recommend checking out Motion Array if you are a content creator or a filmmaker on a budget. But anyway, let's get back to the video. That being said, don't be afraid to use overlays and graphics to get the specific look you want. This isn't something that you're gonna do to every single photo that you edit using graphics and overlays, but depending on the type of photo or depending on the type of shoot and what you're gonna be using it for, it can change the entire look and also save you time. Now, if you know anything about film, you know that halation is an effect that really distinguishes whether something was shot on film or digital. So we can go to this photo that Rob took of me while I was washing the dirt bikes. And all I did to this photo was I slapped on my aerial preset out of my ethereal preset pack, which you can get, link in the description. But this kind of already has that film-ic look. And then all I have to do is throw maybe a film grain on there. And this photo kind of already looks as if it was taken on film. I'm gonna kind of just drop the exposure. Now, there are two ways you can do this halation effect. You can go and support the channel by clicking the link in the description, purchasing the action for a couple dollars, and then loading it up into Photoshop. And when you are in Photoshop, all you have to do is click on the run button. And just like that, you have halation over your bright light sources. Now, this is too strong. You can always dial it down, which I usually do, maybe something like 40%, and you kind of have that film look. So if you wanted to support the channel, you can go and do that. If not, I will show you how to do it just because you're already watching the video. So how to do the halation effect, all you have to do is duplicate your layer, have this layer selected, go up to image, adjustments, threshold. Once you're in threshold, you want to dial this down to I don't know, usually I do like 235. Now you want to add some Gaussian blur on this because this is just going to be way too strong. So you're going to go up to filter, go up to blur, Gaussian blur. I usually do about 10 pixels and then I click OK. Then you're going to change the layers blending mode to screen. Now once you have that, you're going to go up to layer, new fill layer, solid color. You can name this Halation. Set this to red. Once that's set to red, all you have to do is right click on your layer, click on clipping mask, or you're going to create a clipping mask out of it. And then you're going to change the blending mode for this to overlay. And there you go. You have your film halation look on your photos. And then all you have to really do is go down to your background copy layer and just drop the opacity to whatever you'd like to get your desired look. So that's it. Those are some editing tricks that I like to do to level up my photos and make them stand out from the rest. If you have any questions, let me know down below. And if you are interested in checking out Motion Ray for yourself and seeing everything that they have to offer, make sure you use the link in my description to get $50 off an annual plan. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.